Check 1, 2, 3.
Mhm. Good, right? Good, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They said this. You can change it if you need to. Yes. Thinking that. It's something. Okay, you go. Are you going back on? Oh, do I have a car? It's a group. Yes, a car. You do? Yes. Don't try to be able to real like work. The 19%. Yes. It's not the thing. Oh yeah. You said. Thank you. Good. Sunday. I'm ready. So, hi. Otherwise, I have term. But which not gonna have a farm. It's children. Educational. It's Hawaiian cultural education. Organization. In my head, like. I know.
Luana, I'm gonna call you up.
Okay.
Yes. So, starting a nonprofit in Hawaii. Your presenter. Luana Mahi is going to give you the ins and outs of everything you want to know. Why I started a nonprofit.
I'm gonna try it.
We're 6 minutes behind, so.
More people watching, so I was kind of. And Dave is in charge of keeping us on time.
About.
Luana. Luana, Luana.
Wanted.
Hi, welcome
Hi.
everyone. How did anybody else? Did you guys want?
I think we kind of got the glass.
Yeah.
Now, I know normally we go around the room and it's for everybody, but that might take up a lot of time because we're already starting a little late. Maybe the back. Anyway, real quick though, how many people are involved in the nonprofit already? So you guys are here because you want to start another? Yeah? You too?
Yes.
Most of you?
Want to help other people be able to start them.
Oh.
I didn't start mine. I worked for one.
Right, right,
so I
right.
can Be able to educate
That's what happened to me.
them.
You're starting in a nonprofit.
Started my own.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay. I saw you nodding your head.
I work for a giant one and I'm starting a small.
Okay.
I work for the giant.
Okay, nice.
I'm on the board of directors for one, and I'm looking to find out how to transition that from a C6 to a,
Okay.
and then also looking to start another one for another business that I work.
Yeah, the C3 to the C6 thing is probably not gonna be covered in this, but I can talk stories with you about that.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? That's about it? You just interested in creating your own? Okay, great. That is what this is about, then. Creating your own nonprofit. So, a couple of things you have to sit down. You probably have some white pages you guys did on your own, maybe a name, what your mission statement is, you know, what you're looking to accomplish, a couple of different things you have to do. But one of the things that I was always surprised about in working with nonprofits is that many of them feel that because it's called nonprofit, that means you can't make a profit. So that's not true, okay? You can make a, you guys are just checking up on me. I just know it. So you guys can make a profit. You guys can't just rely and pay individuals on those profits. Oh my gosh, another one. Anyway, so where do you start? What are the goals for your business? Your mission statement, and keep in mind that when you do a mission statement, try and do two. Your big mission statement and one that's 250 characters, because that's what fits with an IRS application. And I don't like to do them for you because you know I'll leave out a lot. Funding sources. What are you looking for? Grants, donation, government contracts, foundation funding, and tax deductible contributions. So like I mentioned, profits cannot be distributed to individuals. The business structure is an organization is run by a board of directors. And Wayne and Dave and I have served on a couple of them together over the years. Ownership. You may serve as the executive director, but decisions are guided by the board of directors. If organizations is dissolved, assets must go to another nonprofit. For example, one of the organizations I was with owned a big tour bus, 55 passenger bus. We used it for marketing. And after we closed down this particular site, we donated it to Hawaiian Homes Association, who's going to be putting up some agricultural lots. Nonprofit 501c3s is the goal to benefit the community, cultural preservation, education, environmental stewardship, or social services. And the mission must serve the public interest and not private individuals. Ooh, that's stunning. Who read this through for me and didn't spell check? So for-profit is LLCs, corporations, sole proprietorships. So again, personal income, wealth, return on investment. Funding sources are sales revenues. And the thing with for-profit businesses, you have to pay a lot of taxes. So you have federal taxes, state taxes, GE taxes. With nonprofit, if you get exemptions for your federal filing, that's great. You still have to do Form 990 to show them how much you made, but you don't pay taxes on that unless the revenue is generated outside of your mission statement or what your organization was created for. And then with the general excise taxes, same thing. It has to be based on the revenue you create, earn based on your mission statement. And we'll go into applying for all of those things. So I left some space here because I believe they may have printed these out for you, so I want you guys to visit. What?
You had to download it.
Oh.
They sent it.
Okay, you can fill it in and kind of do your thing. So identify your community needs. Now, usually that's kind of based on what you're interested in doing, right? Not everybody is going to be interested in saving the wetland, right? Not everybody is interested in replanting trees on the mountain. Maybe they want to do something different. So it's really based on what your interest is and what you feel like you can contribute, and not just go into something that you have no business doing, right? Define who you serve and how you want to serve these individuals or the environment. So I wouldn't recommend creating a nonprofit living on Maui, but you want to do something for Molokai or Lanai, especially it's really difficult to get to Molokai with the current schedule of Mokulele. Be specific and community driven. And that's important, especially when you go out and try and get funding, grants primarily, or a contract, or philanthropic donations. So, a couple of things you want to do. Choose a name. If you want to do something with the Aina, Malama Aina, you want it to have cultural relevance. Describe, directly describe what you do. I mentioned just former client. Suggest an emotion or imagery. Sometimes when you're creating a name, the reason why I put that on there is because then the next thing you do is create a logo, right? So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing that. I have seen some modify words where it's part Maui, part Loa, or something to do with Loa, which is long, so they shorten it. I wanted to make sure when you look at your name, think about the acronyms. You don't want to put letter word to spell something that's inappropriate. Might be offensive to some people. Metaphors, symbols of stories that represent your mission. And then of course, some items are areas, Hawaii Business Express, you can look up business name search, the USPTO trademark search, and then of course, checking social media, because if you want to have a presence online, the cheapest, least expensive way would be all of the social media accounts, because pretty much they're free unless you start adding for. So recruiting board members, you need to start with a minimum of 3. I wouldn't go more than 9. 5 is like a really great number because for a quorum to make decisions and vote on things, you have to have more than half. So if you have 3 people there, you're good. Anything more than that, it becomes really difficult. One of the things that happened during COVID, as you guys all know, we did a lot of things online. So Zoom meeting, at the beginning was better attended than our in-person meetings. But you have to make sure that you go back into your bylaws and make sure that the bylaws stipulate that voting can take place via a virtual conference. or email or text. That's generally, it's always in person. So just make sure your bylaws reflect that. So a lot of people have a lot of problems, especially when you lived for a long time. And let's say, for example, you have a family of musicians and you want to create a nonprofit. And so you're going to get your brother as because he's also a musician with you, and your cousin. The problem with that is you're really always, for the most part, going to all vote one way. There's not going to be a lot of differing of opinion. But I like to have people think about their board of directors a little differently. You have to look at these individuals as somebody who can bring something to the table. Not because you live in the same house, you have the same grandparents. Is somebody a bookkeeper? Is somebody a grant writer? Are they available? Right? You're gonna text them, you're gonna email them, you're gonna schedule a meeting. Are they gonna respond? How quickly do they respond? You know, because if you need an answer right away, how quickly can they respond? So are they available? Like I mentioned down below, somebody who's organized, keep track of the paperwork, good communicator. And of course, the last one I put on there, because most important, is they have to believe in your mission. If they're just doing it just for fun, it doesn't really benefit the organization. So first thing to do, file your articles of incorporation with the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. You now have to create an account. You're going to choose domestic profit corporation, confirm your Hawaii registered agent. So most times, if you're the one that's doing this, you would put yourself and your home address and your phone number. The form is DC1. Now, they're a little sneaky over there at the DCCA. I guess they gotta create their own income because now their form is very simple, but it's not complete for what the IRS requires.
Right.
So you're gonna, yeah, I know. I didn't make the rules. I just have to live by them. So the DC1 asks you for really basic information, right? It doesn't even like tell you, do you want to add your board members if you don't have them? Like you want to save the name, for example, right? So you're gonna go on, you're gonna put the name in before it's taken by anybody else. Then later on, you start talking to people about joining your board. And then you finally get this board and you go back online. It's gonna cost you money to register the board members. I know, right? And then on top of that, they don't put in Article 7, which is your mission statement. And then there's like this, if you want, I can send these to you, but an area where you have to stipulate the IRS function of your organization, right? That's the 501c3, 501c6, okay? And that is another form that again costs more money, right? So, and then if you want it done fast, then you pay more money, $25 for expedited services. So if you do the standard form, $25, $1 for online processing plus expedited, it's $51. You go back in later and you add board members, it's another $10. And then if you want to add that articles of subsection or section 7, that's another $25. So you want to try and do it all in your first filing. So you would download those forms, MP3 and DC1. After that, you go back to the IRS website to get your EIN number. It's free. But the reason why you register with the DCCA first is because the DCCA is going to send you a form that they stamp in the upper left-hand corner with a little signature and a date. You need that form before you get your EIN, because you're going to upload that form. You also need your EIN number if you want to open a bank account, your business license, permit, hire employees, and apply for your state GE tax exemption and your GE tax license. I left some room over here for you guys to write down, outline your governance rules for your bylaws. Include meeting, like how often your board will meet. All of the officers' responsibilities, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. And include the need of funders. So for example, if you're applying for state or county of Maui grant, you have to have a statement or a policy for nepotism and conflict of interest. By the way, with AI, you can get bylaw and then you don't have to create it from scratch. Or I have one that I have from previous other that I've already taken out of my stuff. Go that out first. Creating an agenda template also is good too for whoever is your secretary, or if you have to do it all yourself, which I've had to do that. And keeping an agenda and copy of minutes are important because, for example, if you change board members and you want different people to have permission to sign the check at the bank, you have to take your meeting minute, you have to take your corporate resolution, and you have to take all the people who's going to be authorized to sign to the bank at the same time. Fun. That's always fun. And then, of course, you meet regularly. You adopt bylaw changes, like I said, when you change different things, whether it's, being approved to take votes by text or email or have meetings virtually. And I love using Otter AI when I have meetings. Does it all for me. Because I used to be one of those board members. I was a president, and I used to have to keep minutes. I created the agenda. Otter does it. So this is at the IRS website. So once you have your approved articles of incorporation from DCCA, you have your bylaws, you have your board members, then you can go to apply for your tax exemption status. So 501c3, charitable, education, religious, that is primarily the most popular one that is used here. The standard detailed application cost is $600. It's Form 1023. The more streamlined version is 1023 EZ, and it's for gross receipts under 50,000 and assets under 250,000. Now, I recommend to a lot of nonprofits to start with the EZ form, because if you haven't had one before, you haven't operated as a nonprofit before, then you have no income. They want to know what their income was for the last 3 years for the nonprofit. Now, it also says receipts under 50,000. It used to say for the first 3 years. It doesn't say that anymore. So you can make more than 50,000 in the first year, and the second year, and the third year. It just depends on how you file your federal taxes. It will be determined how much you make. You cannot use the little postcard, the 990 and 990 or 990. So before you do this, you want to grab all your paperwork, right? I like to scan them all in that list, because there is a place that they're going to ask you to upload documents. So I just scan them all and combine them in a PDF and attach it. But list the board members and their addresses are added separately. Now, after you get your IRS approval is when you go to the Department of Taxation and file Form G60. That is, well, hold on. Do BB1. I should have put that on there. BB1, just registering. And that's to get you a GE tax license. So back in the day, you could do it all in one form when you go to the DCCA, but they separated them. So you do the BB1, get your GE tax license number first. wait for later to get the exemption, because it takes a little longer. You want the GE tax license right away, and we'll get into that in the next slide or so. Register with the Attorney General's office. A lot of times once you register with the DCCA, the Attorney General's office is going to send you a letter. And then you can follow their instructions on there and register. By the way, unless you guys have a board member that enjoys the Form 1099 at the Attorney General's office and loves to play with that form, I would suggest not collecting cash donations, because that form is not fun. It's very confusing. I have to do it a couple of times. Anyway. So now you want to set up your infrastructure of your nonprofit and your bank account, set up an accounting system, get insurance. So for county and state grants, $1 million, $2 million policy is the minimum. So the website, social media, other outreach tools. Start programs and fundraising. Now, just for a little bit of information. So all the stuff that I told you had to get to start, the cost is under $400 if you do the 1023 easy form, and you pay for adding the board members and everything one time. That's $51 to DCCA. I think everything else. Oh,
The $600.
the GE tax. Well, if you do that one, or the 275, yeah.
Okay.
So 275 plus 51 plus $20 for your GE tax license, and then the tax exemption is free. The application is free. So it's under $400. So plan to put in a little bit of your own money. So compliance is really important, especially if you have a grant. The department that you have a grant with will be constantly checking to make sure you're compliant. And that's by going to the Hawaii Compliance Express website, and that costs $12. So you'll have to file Form 990 annually with the IRS and the state AG's office. File GE tax forms monthly, quarterly, and annually, even if you have an exemption. You just go in and you just file 00000 all the way. And then these are some resources. So one of the things that I didn't put in here, because it was just added maybe a week or so ago, Hawaii Compliance Express said you have to include a TCR, the tax clearance report that you get from the IRS. Well, believe it or not, the IRS doesn't give TCRs for nonprofits. The Hawaii Compliance Express requires them. So I've been grumbling with a guy named Brandon at Tyler, Hawaii, with the Hawaii Compliance Express, telling him about this problem. And he said, oh, we're just into it because they do now realize that they only give them to individuals or corporations or. So I've been kind of talking to different nonprofits saying, hey, write this guy and tell him about this problem. So it's not. You know, I'm always thinking I'm in my office at home, but I don't have anything better to do. I struggle with people. Now what I'm doing is just trying to make it easier for everybody. Anyway, so what Hawaii Compliance Express is saying that nonprofits will not be compliant, right? It'll show that you're compliant with your Department of Hawaii State Department of Taxation, your DCCA filing, your Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, but you won't ever be compliant with the IRS. So how you overcome that with your grantor is you give them a copy of your IRS determination letter that tells you you are qualified as a 501c3. So I asked Brandon, second email, how about I just give you my IRS determination letter and you upload it on your website so that I can have a compliance certificate? Because if all 4 of those boxes are not compliant, you can't print a certificate. If I'm always gonna only be 3 of those compliant, I'm never gonna print a certificate. I'm not gonna have one. So like I said, he came back and said, we're looking into it. By the way, I did copy a bunch of people on that email. So, how are we for time, Dave?
We are, let's say, you got another 20 minutes.
Okay, so this will be a
We're gonna
good
do
time for
questions at the end.
questions. I didn't say answer. Have time for questions. Okay, go ahead.
Couple questions. So I'm in the process. I think when I get step 47. I got,
Almost done that.
yeah, almost done. I just got my letter from the IRS that I can now officially receive donations. So
That's your IRS
that's the
determination letter,
IRS.
yeah.
So that is the determination letter.
Yeah, it'll say we have found blah, 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 and in the top right-hand
Mhm.
corner, there'll be your EIN number,
Yes.
and it'll also say a date
Yes.
and that date should be the same as when you registered your business with the DC.
Got it. Okay. So at this point, then I have to go back to, I think the next step is BB1, the GET.
tax, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I guess you didn't answer my question. So that is the determination letter. When they say you are officially accepted and you can now start receiving donations.
Yeah.
That's it. Can I also go for grant? Start applying for grant money?
Well, you can, but you're gonna need your DE tax license in order to get the Hawaii Compliance Express certificate.
Okay, what's the timeline on that process?
I would say the minimum is 2 weeks if
Okay.
everything is in order. Yeah.
But I can officially operate as a nonprofit
Yeah.
at this point. I can start getting permits and,
Yes.
oh, sweet. Amazing. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Best answer I've had all day.
In the back row, back.
So if you're using that easy form, you're only allowed to take 50,000.
No. What they're saying is that you haven't used 50,000 previously for a nonprofit. So if it's brand new, obviously you haven't. But it used to say that you cannot make 50,000 for the first 3 years. It doesn't say that anymore.
Okay.
So you can't. So you can make 100,000 the first year, or receive a grant for 100,000 the first year. It just depends on how much you make. Determines what tax form you file. The postcards, I mean, they're all done electronically. There's not postcards anymore. But the postcards are called 990N. And then most of them are just 990 or 990C. 990. So you can, and if you are making a ton of money and you need a subcontractor to share, Dave, Wayne, and I are available. We do a lot of stuff.
Anyway, you talk about receipts.
Mhm.
So receipts are the grants, any monies that you actually profited, but not donations.
So you have to keep track of donations. So like earlier when I mentioned about setting up your infrastructure, right? Your bank account, your accounting system. So I used to be with an organization that started the Maui Sunday Market on the shopping center. Make sure I'm pointing in the right direction. And sometimes people would give cash donations. But for that, we had to report separately from the vendors that were paying to be part of it. So that was part of the revenue. That was part of our mission statement to provide economic opportunities for value-added community members. So the donation has a different line item in your account. And then when you get donations, that's when you have to go and file separate report with the Attorney General's office. Yeah.
Does that include your kind donation? Like if someone. like,
No,
donated
in-kind donations is usually where someone is donating their time or equipment, right? So maybe a board member uses their computer, their accounting computer software to do it. It's not owned by the organization, but that is their in-kind donation to the organization, and then also to a grant, right? So when you're applying for a county grant, for example, the first column will say like the county money that you're hoping to receive, and then other income. So it'd be like in this organization, the revenue that's generated from all the vendors at the Maui Sunday Market, and then the next column is in kind. That would be time. So then it's like their hours where they volunteer at the Maui Sunday Market times whatever dollar amount value the board has determined is acceptable. Go ahead.
I got a bunch of questions, so I'm starting
Okay.
with one. So
Dave's gonna be on top of it.
can you elaborate on exemptions? You alluded to some 501s still have to pay taxes and some don't. If they don't have the right exemptions, or how does that work?
Yeah, and that's for all 501 will have to pay taxes if they derive revenue outside of their mission statement.
Okay, so the exemptions is staying within the statement.
Right. So I'm doing a presentation about something else to another nonprofit next week, and nowhere in their mission statement does it say economic opportunity. And we are opening an economic development area. So it's gonna be really hard. They're gonna have to pay taxes on top of that, right? So I have to convince their board to change their mission statement just by adding a couple of words, right? And then that goes into the minute meeting and bylaws.
And it gets adopted.
Yeah. And then you have to change it with GCCA.
Right.
And then the next time you pay the taxes, the federal taxes, you have to always enter your mission statement. Make sure the word economic is in there somewhere.
So at least my next question.
Okay.
So the 501c has there's a lot of different numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like when I first was looking into it, my friend who's working a law office gave me like pages.
Mhm.
It's like literally pages and pages of numbers. So I'm starting a addiction recovery farm that's gonna have multifaceted things happening.
Okay.
So would a C3 status work for that, or do I
Yeah,
need to
it
look for
could,
something
because you could list it all under like an educational component.
in the statement?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Okay,
then
that was only 2 questions.
and then certificate for the IRS. You were earlier you're talking about like nepotism.
Oh, the
Yeah.
bylaws. In the bylaws, there should be a statement in there that you include the board of directors stance on nepotism. So for example, say I'm the executive director or president and I want to hire my husband for something. Now, I don't know. I don't even remember what the bylaw says about that. But that's something that the board would have to agree upon, and you may need to change the bylaw. This is no can, right? You have to be allowed, or a certain percentage. Now, there's also an area where it talks about compensation for board members. That also needs to be in there. So I believe that one of the boards that I served on had a percentage rate where 60% of the board members could be compensated. And especially because one of them was the food scientist and board member. And so she was the one that did a lot of the work for the Valley food producers.
So basically, like putting your mission statement and bylaws, like is pretty much the foundation, the framework of everything
Absolutely.
that comes after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the bylaws is the guide that the board of directors will direct your nonprofit. and for things like nepotism, conflict of interest, and so on and so forth, there are certain things that you always know are gonna happen, like compensation for directors and things like that, which if you don't mention it, there's no compensation, right? And so when she talks about the nepotism clause, that is a function of the fact that if you're gonna apply to a grant, in this particular case, OED, it specifically says all people who are applying, you gotta make sure you have a nepotism clause. There's like federal programs and things you do, sometimes they'll say like, this weird stuff like, you have to have a no smoking policy, or you have to have
No drug,
a drug policy, all of that stuff. So understand that the bylaws is what allows the directors to know and make calls on how to run the organization. But the articles can grow and grow and grow as you need them.
Yeah, in the bylaw, you can recommend it as you go, yeah.
Go ahead.
Question about, I'm still deciding if I'm going to do a nonprofit. If I already have a for-profit business and then I'm thinking about opening a nonprofit sector of it, do the names like need to be totally different? Even if they do possibly similar things, but you want.
So it should be different because the DCCA may not approve it if it's the same thing. I mean, you can make some slight changes.
Yeah.
To get it approved. I think the way it works, and I may be wrong, but I think your nonprofit can own the for-profit. I don't think you do the other way around.
Oh.
Yep.
So then if you have the LLC already, like make a nonprofit and buy. Or like-
It's not really a buy, but it's really just the paperwork
Oh, okay.
that you turn in to
So even if the
DCCA.
nonprofit afterwards, I could still say that, hey, I own this nonprofit.
Yeah. There's a form that the DCCA can email you to do that form, and if you're the owner of the LLC, then you would sign off that you're approving that this happens.
Okay, the other,
Nonprofit can own.
Uh-huh.
the other question that I have is, so there was a 501 and it was saying that it cannot be for individuals, but could serve individuals.
Oh, okay, so what the slide is saying is that it's not, when you are creating a nonprofit, it's not to serve an individual. And it's, for the greater good, right? The community.
Like not myself.
Yeah, you're not gonna create a
Okay.
nonprofit just so, what's your first name?
Crystal.
Crystal. So Crystal, you cannot have a nonprofit that is just serving Crystal. Or Bob. Or Bob. Or Dave. It has to serve, either a group of people,
Yeah.
a community,
So that you
an
actually
association, like a homeowners association. You're gonna do something environmental, it's gonna be a church, it's gonna be a school, not one person.
Okay.
About board compensation. So when looking at your financials for the first couple of years, starting off, incoming cash being at a minimal because of the arduous nature of the filings and just time. Do you build in compensation for the board into year 2 and 3 as part of your mission statement in your financials? Or do you just let that be an article down the road and have a volunteer only board to begin with?
Oh, well, we can help you with that. That's why I brought them.
Right on.
Well, the main premise of a nonprofit, right? And in terms of the word nonprofit, it's not that the organization can't be profitable. It is that profits is defined by income that exceeds expenses that cannot go to any individual that owns the company. Board of directors, in a sense, are the owners of it. So by that definition,
You can't pay them profit.
yeah, board members for nonprofits are never compensated.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem for people who are like, I'm gonna start a nonprofit. But if they wanna make a living, you better not be on the board.
Right.
Because you can't get compensated. Right. The one exception, and like Luana was talking about, is sometimes the board might serve as a vendor or do something. And so if you have a resolution that says, we're gonna review this and case by case, we will allow a board member to be a vendor and get compensation, right? But by default, if you're a nonprofit board member, there is no compensation.
Oh, zero.
Yeah, I have a really good example of that. So before I joined the board that created that venue down the street, I own a business as we call it a brokerage company, but it's not really in the financial sense. It's actually a representative of national and international product that I sell to stores. So Foodland, Safeway, Whole Foods, Comfort, throughout the city. And what the founder of this organization wanted was for me to teach classes to people that were interested in how to market their products to the store. So in order to compensate me for my time, I was written into the grant wherever they applied to, and I used my business name, but also they had to change the bylaws for that. So with this board, with, like I mentioned, the food scientist, he has her own business as a food scientist. And then we had a board member who does sales and marketing, so we use her sales and okay, her.
But for board functionality, that's volunteer only.
That is volunteer only, so if you are meeting once a week for an hour and you're given an assignment to do something and you're keeping track of their hours, that's in kind.
Got it. Thank you.
That the LLC has to be business generated to the public, or can you do something like? If you don't have-
It should be related.
Okay.
So like I was saying, you're gonna do something educational or whatever it is within that mission statement, right? It should cover at least one of those components.
So I have a farm and an LLC, and I already do a lot, my farm does a lot with age and now field trips and a lot of things, and I'm considering a nonprofit, and then after your third slide, I said, no, I don't think, when do I know that it is worth all of that time and effort and $600 or $223 bucks? Like, when I spent thousands on my like, I spent a lot of money on my 4-H kids, I spent a lot of money just doing stuff.
How do you get money to spend that money on the 4-H kids and anybody else that comes into the
My
board?
own personal money, and
Okay.
that's why I wanted to
So
make it.
that's why I would consider creating a nonprofit, so that you can go to the Department of Agriculture
Right.
and say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I need.
I'm having trouble with financials, let alone them trying to do that.
Right, there are people that you come to for help that can help you do that. And I can tell you later.
Does a nonprofit need a CPA to do an audit? Like, is that like a, don't want
Okay,
to, and auditing?
okay, so if you have a CPA that's like maybe a board member and they do your accounting for you, that CPA can't do an audit. You have to go to an outside third-party contractor to do an audit. And they generally run, I think, probably close to $10,000 is the minimum right now.
When is that required? Is that required for every
Sometimes when you
nonprofit?
get certain kinds of grants and contracts.
So our HOAs, nonprofits?
So are.
Okay.
Homestead
Are you
Association.
able to add that into the grant that you're requesting?
Absolutely.
Okay. Probably outside of-
Yeah, especially if they require it.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the biggest problems you're gonna have, because we had this problem a couple of years ago, find one that can do it right away, right? Like don't fall there in January to May, but that would be crazy. But I didn't, and it still took like 6 months before they could get to us.
And one of the most common requirements, again, is the grantor is federal. So in federal, if you have a grant that's over 750,000, it requires audited.
Yeah.
So, if I
Figure out. Right, so if you're not going for someone's asking for that, it's not a base.
To apply for $749.
$29.99.
$9.99.
Yeah.
And 99 cents.
and then they had trouble finding funding, so they just abandoned the nonprofit. They were already established, could get funding for whatever reason, couldn't get funding, so they went back to their for-profit. Nonprofit, I don't know if they dissolved it or not, but if that's just already like all that's done, would it be possible to be like, hey, why don't we
Let me buy your nonprofit for you,
or
right?
something, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's already there. It's
Yeah,
established,
yeah. I mean, you could.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah, what?
But thinking about what you have to do to change, right? You're still gonna have to pay some fees. Because you're gonna have to go back to the BCCA, possibly change the name, change the mission statement, change the board of directors, change all of those things. Yeah. And then when you do that, well, like say, okay, I'm gonna tell you, this is way back. I had a friend who owned this soccer thing, and it was a nonprofit, and then he never did anything with it. And he just sat there, and I was helping him on his for-profit business. And I'm like, what are you doing with this? He's like, oh yeah, one of the parents created that for us, but we never used it. I'm like, anyway, and so I said, well, maybe we should do something with it, or maybe make some changes to it so it can be utilized. And he was like, yeah, too much work.
Yeah.
So it's just been sitting there. You can still pull it up on the DCCA. It'll say like, business not in good standing, and it'll say inactive or whatever. Eventually it'll come off the list. I haven't checked it in a while, so. But it does exist.
So
It does
what if
happen.
it's already in like the same kind of industry,
In what
serving
you're
the
doing?
same market
Yeah.
anyway, but they just never did anything with it? What if we just kept the name the same and like,
Then go for it.
that
Yeah.
that would make sense, right?
Absolutely.
And my other question is, how is it possible that they couldn't find funding for what they wanted? So that's the other.
Well, again,
question.
going back to thinking strategically on who's on your board, right? You don't want board members to just come to the meeting once a month and then everybody bring their lunch and you go through these meetings and then everybody leaves and you're still left there doing everything yourself.
How do nonprofits get funding?
Apply for grants.
Like, how do they get funding?
Apply for grants. Number one, apply for grants.
It's just like,
How do you find out, like,
all day
I mean, I understand they're
Google.
different, but the
Google
how,
available found grants, you can say like, Malama Lahaina, the wetlands, planting, you can type in all of those things into your search. Use ChatGPT, they'll give you a whole list, there's grant watch, there's grant, what is grant, yeah.
And Hana Hawaii.org. Hana Hawaii,
Oh, yeah.
the Hawaii Alliance.
Hana Hawaii.
Nope. They actually
Right there on
have
the
a
top.
section on their website of a woman
right
who
there.
keeps track of grants.
So you can find, Hana, I put it on the.
Okay, I understand like it's time sensitive, right? They come season, like whatever, I mean, right? It's,
You can always find an organization somewhere that's coming up. I have a friend of ours, and he worked for Arizona State University. And he just sent me, hey, check out this grant application. I'm like, dude, if you could only apply for them for me, so kind of time. That's what I would normally say. Like, thanks for that. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. think strategically on your board members or friends or somebody who doesn't mind doing it and they have nothing else to do but sit at home with their $3.
And that process, again, thinking strategically, is something you have to factor in about whether you're gonna be for-profit or nonprofit. Because if you're gonna be nonprofit, you have to realize that if you look at your percent of resources, your organization that you're gonna spend on fundraising, it's sizable, and in many organizations, over 50% of your resources, which leaves you less than half of resources actually corporate, right? So that's something, again, strategically you have to.
And you can hire grant writers. There are different organizations that provide that. One of the things that I found, this was probably 10 years ago, we hired a grant writer and she applied for 2 grants for us. 2012 actually. And we didn't get either grant, but we still had to pay her, right? But it was a learning process for me in how to write it myself. And this was not a county grant because I had been doing that since like mid 2005 or 6 or something. And then federal grant. So we had a federal grant to apply for. We hired somebody else to do it. They quoted us $8,000. I ended up getting and applying for a grant writer grant and got $5,000. So then I'm thinking, great, I'm only $3,000 in the hole now on this deal. But this particular grant writer was appreciative of the fact that I did a lot of the information. Every time she asked me for stuff, I gave her tons. And so she brought down her price to $1,000 or $6,000. So I was only out of pocket $1,000. So there are grants that you can apply for grant writer.
How do we become a grant writer? Can we just do it ourselves? Like
You can, absolutely.
take courses?
Absolutely. No. I mean, there is courses, but you don't have to because primarily at the County of Maui, right? So Department of Human Concern, OED Resources, the Department of Agriculture, Department of, or the Office of Economic Development. They're asking you questions, you fill in the blanks. Very, very simple.
Curious, 'cause I don't really know how nonprofits work, so I'm wondering, because that just sounds like that doesn't make sense energetically and just the whole process of, oh, maybe I get it, it's like the lottery or something, right?
About getting the IRS.
Know about the grant.
Oh, the grant, yeah.
Writing, and like, that just sounds like crazy, like you're saying.
It
The
is.
amount of energy you put in trying to get money,
Mhm.
why not just profit? But I'm thinking maybe if there were other successful businesses that actually wanted this nonprofit to serve the community in some kind of way, create relationships with other businesses that want to sponsor,
So we do
that
have
would
that.
make more sense than
Right,
like.
so we
grant
do have nonprofit organizations that act as fiscal sponsors
writing.
for other businesses.
Fiscal sponsors, what does that mean?
So they are the nonprofit, they are going to be the ones filing and applying for grants on your for-profit businesses.
It's like an umbrella.
Yeah.
What do they think of that?
They do. So I know with county grants, I think the fiscal sponsor can get up to 15% as a fiscal sponsor. So if you're applying for 100,000, they'll get 15,000. So I have recommended to a lot of people who are using fiscal sponsors that they should become their own nonprofit so you can save that 15,000 for yourself.
I remember with a nonprofit, we did something like that for the county where we applied for a grant through one of those folks, and then they were audited or something to that effect, and we never received our money a full year.
Mhm.
Is that pretty common, like to have happen?
No, that's the more recent thing with, I think, the last year or so.
What's your contact info?
I walked out of my house on purpose and didn't bring my business card because I was trying to keep it light. But I will come and give you my number.
Luana, is your name on the slide?
No, And you can mention that in the survey question. She didn't leave her name. She didn't leave her number. I did that on purpose. No.
Yeah, hopefully a quick question. I'm really interested about this aspect of how the nonprofit can own a for-profit. Is there sort of a use case or anything? Like, oh, this would be the decision, because I have both.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, oh, maybe the nonprofit should own the LLC, definitely related. What's sort of a, you should do it if this and if not, if that, like, or is it just like, it's a good idea?
So this one organization that did it, and the reason why they did it was because it was, so the umbrella nonprofit covered some of this component in their mission statement,
Okay,
but it wasn't their strongest item.
okay.
And this other entity came along and said, well, if you guys had I can't even tell you what these initials stand for because I just helped them file the paperwork. But it was really about AI and something else. And so this organization in Canada wanted to work with somebody here that had that same
Okay,
thing. So that's why they created that LLC under the nonprofit.
okay. So the nonprofit is sort of an entity that produces something, and then the LLC would be a piece of it. We're actually intending to basically purchase, like rent equipment from the company. It makes sense for own that LLC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would the LLC be able to fund the nonprofit?
Well, it just depends on how it's created in the bylaws. When you add this LLC or the for-profit arm.
Okay.
Generally, when the for-profit entity makes money, they would.
Okay.
But it's not unusual for the nonprofit organization in their grant application or their financials to talk about money going from the nonprofit to the for-profit for whatever program they're doing.
Okay. So like they would rent the equipment and that would be part of the grant.
Exactly.
A vendor.
Amazing, okay.
And we're 3 minutes over? Oh, 3 minutes under. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it, like, say people have this idea, right, for a nonprofit, and another idea for this nonprofit, would it be smart to have two separate nonprofits, or really just create a more broad mission collectively?
I really like broad missions.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But being able to be condensed into 250 words.
Yeah. Hey, and real quick, I have used AI for that. Where I put the full mission statement of an organization, I get and a couple of options to 250 characters. And then I send it back to the board and go, choose which one you want me to put in the IRS forms. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm curious, if you were saying that there is inactive nonprofit, then you have to like, even once you choose a mission, you know, like that starts standing, I remember you all.
Oh, no, it does.
Oh,
We had mentioned, like, with the homeowners association that I was working with recently, they're gonna do this economic component, but the word economic was nowhere in their mission statement. They really just talk about their community and what they're there for.
But
Not to be Karens, by the way, or difficult employee members. That's how that. Anyways, named Karen.
That's the in charge.
Use that on her. Don't get it. Anyway. So yes, it's always, that's something that the board should review every year, the need for changing the bylaw. And if you're gonna change the mission statement, that needs to be part of that discussion. And then resolution, and then
would I have to
bylaw.
like register the mission statement and like?
Yes, so you do that when you file your annual taxes with the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a section
So if I
that you
do
have to type in the mission statement.
thing, and then when I go to do the filing, the annual filing, then I could just do some updates there
Yes,
and keep it.
yeah.
And the most common time you see that is when the whole board switches.
The whole board was.
Which is,
There's no other home board. And so if all of a sudden it's started the same mission and everything else, but it's going to be operated
you
differently,
engage
the
them.
way you institute that is with different board.
Oh, yeah.
You're on the board.
Thank you, Luana.
Yes, all of this, we're going to need to record it, so we guys will have availability. Okay?
What about the slides?
Angela, so with slides, I had also given her a questionnaire or a fillable questionnaire. And if you didn't get the slides from Angela, then she can by an email, you could print it.